Hi, and welcome to the Clarity 16.1.1 Supportability and Feature Training session. My name's Catherine Ellis, and I'm a Product Manager with Clarity. Clarity 16.1.1 Copy Custom Objects. A new capability to copy custom objects is now available. A Clarity administrator can now grant a new copy access right to users for providing the ability to copy custom master objects and custom subobjects. With this new enhancement, the new from template action will now automatically copy over the second and third level objects into the new investment for which the user has access. A user with a new access rights will have the ability to copy the master custom object record, and it'll include the second and third level records for which the user has access. And the user can copy the child or second level record, and it'll bring over the third level records for which the user has access. This enhancement has been requested by our customers. Companies use custom objects to track additional activities or information relative to how they operate and deliver on their business processes. Having the ability to copy records improves the usability of Clarity for users to quickly add new records with minimal data entry. With this new enhancement, a parent record and all the sub-level records for which the user has access can be copied in one step. With the access to copy objects, the user will see a new copy action in Clarity on the Objects Grid workspace. The action can be invoked from a right-click or from the checkbox selector to copy one record. The copy action is available for a custom master record and for a second-level custom subobject. Working with the investments in a prior release, a user can copy a project, and now all the subobject records are copied over. The action to create a new idea, custom investment type, or project from a template will now copy subobject records too if the user has access to these records. The copy action is also available in the second-level child object grid. Some copy actions are not yet available, and we have plans for future releases to address these other areas. Before we get into the details of the new feature, let's go over the relationships of the investments, custom master objects, and custom subobjects in my dataset. Studio allows the administrator to create 3 levels of custom objects. And in my dataset, I have a custom master object named vendors, and under that a vendor contract object, which is the second level subobject, and contractors, which is the third level subobject. Or, in other words, referred to as the parent, child, and grandchild objects is another way to look at it. When talking about investments and having custom subobjects, you can create the subobjects, the second level subobject, under the common investment object, and when you do that, it is shared by all object types, such as projects, ideas, and the different custom investment types that you've created in your system. You also have the ability to define a particular custom subobject directly under a specific investment type. So in my data set, I have a custom investment type called Technology Components, and under that I have a subobject called Assessment, and this is not shared between the other investment types such as projects, ideas, or other custom investment types. Now that you understand my data model, we'll take a look at how the copy action appears on the grid. When navigating into the Custom Objects workspace, into the Vendors tile, the user that has been granted the copy access right for the vendor's master object will have the ability to see the copy action enabled using the right-click action to copy a vendor. Alternatively, when the user selects the box to copy one row, the action will be enabled in the grid selection action bar. Selecting multiple rows will disable this action. Performing the copy action at the master level for a vendor will copy the vendor record and all the vendor contracts and contractors if the user has the rights to the sub-level records. When the Details flyout is opened for the vendor, the user views the second level or child object subtab for vendor contracts. Even though the user might have been granted copy access for vendor contracts, the action is not available in the flyout and it's not available in the modal when expanding the subtab grid. However, the user can still perform a copy action on the second level records. When the user clicks into the vendor Americali and navigates to the vendor contracts module, the user that has been granted the copy access right for the second level vendor contracts object will have the ability to see the copy action enabled using the right-click action to copy the record. Alternatively, when the user selects the box to copy one row, the copy action will be enabled in the grid selection action bar. Performing the copy action at the second level for a vendor contract will copy the vendor contract record and all the contractors if the user has rights to do so at the sub-level records. When the details flyout is open for the vendor contract, the user views the third level or grandchild object subtab for the contractors. Even though the user might have been granted copy access for contractors, this action is not available in the details flyout, and it is not available in the modal when expanding the subtab grid. The ability to copy individual third level or grandchild records is not yet available. However, granting the copy access right for the third level object is necessary so that the records can be copied when the master or second level records are copied. So what happens with the copy modal behavior? What drives the fields that show up on this modal when the user tries to do a copy? Well, first of all, custom objects do not have the ability to create a modal configuration page to add and show selected fields. It also does not have or support the quote-unquote soft required fields from blueprint rules. So the user won't be able to control what shows on this modal. What happens is the word copy is prepended to the name field. If the source name field is at the maximum length of the 256, which is new in this release, the copy button will be disabled. And from here, you just need to make sure that the text is trimmed so that it fits under that 256 length, and then the copy button will show up. If you have some studio required fields, it may show up if there's no default value defined in Studio and the source record that you're copying from does not have a value set in that record. So on the screenshot here, you can see the type field, the source record didn't have a value and Studio didn't have a default value. However, if there is a default value in Studio or the source record has a value, then it won't show. And what we recommend as best practices is what you see below is to set a default value at the time that you're creating the new attribute so that you can then check the box to populate null values with this default value and you'll get the copy modal without requiring somebody to set that value. How does the copy action actually behave? Based on a combination of rights, a user can successfully copy records. When the user is granted copy permissions, if you can view it, then you can copy it. If you can view subrecords and try to copy the parent record, you must also have copy permission on those subrecords. If you cannot view the records, they're skipped and not copied, regardless of having the copy permission on the subrecords. Note, there's an existing behavior that when a custom object record is created, the user automatically is granted edit instance access rights. Therefore, a user that does a copy action will get edit instance access rights granted to the newly copied records. In a prior release, the delete and edit permissions were separated. Therefore, once the user creates copied records, they can't be deleted unless they also have permissions to delete the records. If there are any conversations, they're not copied over. Below is a sample, but not all variations, of some use cases with different combinations of access rights. Let's take a look at the outcomes based on the assumption that there are existing source records on all three levels. A user with access to view and copy at all three levels will successfully copy a master with all child and grandchild records. That same user will also be successful to copy a second level child record and all its grandchild records. The user with access to view only the master and not have any access to second and third level records will successfully copy only the master record, and the existing child and grandchild records are not copied over regardless of the user's permissions. The user is unaware of these existing records. A user with access to the records on all three levels but does not have the copy permissions on the second and third levels won't be able to successfully copy the master record, as it will fail to copy the subrecords. A user with access to records on all three levels but does not have the copy permissions on the third level won't be able to successfully copy the master or the second level record, as it will fail to copy the third level records. Earlier I talked about how the modal behaves with respect to hiding and showing fields on the modal, especially with respect to studio-defined required fields. So once you select the copy action and you've filled out the required field on the modal for the main record that you're copying, if there are any children or grandchildren records that are being copied that have missing required field information, that information does not bubble up to the level that you're at to put on the modal, so therefore your copy could fail. And so if you look at this chart below, these two examples with the assumption that records exist on all three levels, if you have fields in Studio defined as required but don't have any default value set, or the source records don't have any values, then you could encounter a copy failed situation. So if you look at the last example here, if you pick the master, you have the chance to fill in the missing value, but the children and grandchildren records you don't, so you'll get a failure. If you pick the child record, you have the chance to fill in the child's missing value, but if there are any records under that child that have a missing value, then you could get a failure. And so those are the different examples where you might have missing required fields and either have success or failure depending on your configuration. In this demonstration, you'll see how to copy a custom master object and how to copy a custom sub-object or second level object, and also when using new from template to create an idea, project, or custom investment type with some custom sub-object data at both levels, the second and third level sub-object data. Let's take a look at how the custom sub-objects are copied over when an investment is created from a template. So first we'll go into the Projects workspace, and I have a template here that we can take a look at before we actually create a new project. We have a submodule that is a custom object, and we have some data already. So let's pick this particular template to create a new project. So by selecting New Template, New from Template, and we pick the Project Release template, we'll fill in all the fields we need for a new project. Once the new investment's created, it copies over all the data. For example, you see this template had some to-dos in here, but if we go to the Experience Data tab, you can see that it copied all that in here. And then after we create this, within the project workspace, we don't have the ability yet to do a right-click copy for these rows, but we will in Ideas and Custom Investments. So let's next go to an idea. take a look at a template here in Ideas that has a custom object called Cross Value Stream Agreements. We've got one example in here. So we'll go ahead and create a new idea from this template. And as you can see, it copied everything over. And when we go in here, you can see that it copied the record that was there. And now we have the ability to also copy these records. It puts the word copy in front of it. And we can copy that. And you can just keep on copying, make multiple copies if you want. And if you already have delete permissions, you can go ahead and delete them, and so on. So that's how you do it for projects and ideas. Now let's go to custom investment type, and we'll pick one of our types here. And we have a generic template that we can take a look at. It has some properties. It has a custom object called customer contacts, and you can see here it's got some examples. So let's create a new investment that is a custom investment type from that template. So we'll click New from Template, select the template, and you can see that it copied over the information. And you can see this. So let's say we created our new epic and it's like, oh, we need a couple of product owner contacts. So we'll copy this one again. And then we can fill in different contact names and so on. So you can do that after you've done creating your new epic. You can create new records and copy. Now we'll go and look at the custom objects. So in the custom object workspace, let's go to our vendor object. This is the one that I talked about in the preview. So we have these vendors here, and if I open the details panel, you can see I have a sub-object called vendor contracts. And I like to dock my flyout down below so I could see across the grid. And you can see here in the flyout, if I right click, I don't have the opportunity to copy the child, but I do have the opportunity to copy this vendor. So if I wanted to, I could copy this. But let's drill into this particular vendor and go to the vendor contracts. So this is the second level subobject. And I have this one, and if I create a new row, I can copy this row. And sometimes you'll see it say copy in progress, and you'll say see the copy is completed. And you can see it copied the information across to the new record. And if I right click and open the details, we can see the third level for contractors. And I can see there's quite a few contractors associated with this record. It was associated with the original record, and when I copied the child record, it copied the same data over. So now let's copy the master record. And because I have access to all levels, when I copy this one, it'll copy the child and grandchild records. So let's copy, and we'll just call it the copy of the Mercalli. It created it. So now if I open the details for that, you can see that it copied the same information here. And if I go inside, I can see the third level by going into the second level module and then clicking, and you can see it has the same information as the source. And that's how you do the copy. This concludes the Copy Custom Objects section.